go.
Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union pregame show. As always, I'm Canota. Coby Brault is alongside Tauros. Take game one of the best-of-5 series in impressive fashion, a 9-1 victory last night.
Yeah, couldn't ask for much more out of the Tauros last night. You know, for about the first 10 minutes of the game, I would say, it was very, you could cut the tension with a knife in here. It was, back and forth, thinking a lot about last year, and then Nicholas Ketnin gets the scoring going with a shot from an impossible angle. Gets his second of the game, just minutes later, and then Spencer on a beautiful feed from John Small. I love watching John Small and Ian Spencer play hockey together. They've been doing it since they were, this tall.
There's a good article on our website from a couple months ago about their connection, having grown up playing together. They were fantastic.
Yeah, and up 3-0 after one. Shots were still 13-11. It still felt a little tight for a 3-0 game. Second period, doors get blown off. Spencer gets his second of the game, and then Zwiecki back-to-back tip-ins. Stahowiak gets the shorthanded goal to make it 7-0, and the Tauros never really looked back. Ended up being a dominant performance in the shots department too. 43-21, they ended up outshooting them. Just a classic, typical Tauros performance. Everything we talked about last night in relation to the power plays ended up going 3 for 9 to Austin's 1 for 5. We're able to stay disciplined and just look like the better team for 60 minutes.
Yeah, not just the power play goals, but also the shorthanded goal for Stacks. And then in garbage time, Knox with a fantastic move to cut to the middle, fed his teammate from Andover High. They won a state title together. Casey gets the goal there, and Ty James capped off the scoring with a blast from the high slot. Really, everything you can want. With Ty James' goal, that gave the Tauros a goal from the defenseman. All four lines scoring, really just a dominant effort from pretty much Ketnin's goal line.
Yeah, and you talked about the depth yesterday. We talked about the depth all season long. Spencer and Zwiecki, not the first guys you think of when you think about goal scorers. That was actually Spencer's first 2 goals in the Pepsi all season long. But Spencer with a 3-point night, Ketnin with a 3-point night, Tauros with the 1-0 series lead. About everything you could ask for if you're a Tauros fan heading into game 2 tonight.
As dominant as that performance was, though, it was still just 1 of 5 games, right?
Yep.
Need to win 9 games to hoist a Robertson Cup. Got to get 3 of the first 5 against Austin. That's still just a 1-0 lead. Doesn't matter whether it finished 1-0 or 9-1.
Yeah, and like we said, a lot to be excited about going into the game tonight. But yeah, if Austin is able to get a win tonight, series is split. They steal home ice, headed back to the Riverside Arena. So still a huge one tonight. Still a lot of work left to be done for the Tauros, but great start.
Great start, and really great start for all of the higher seeds as we take a look around the Robertson Cup playoff bracket. Here in the Central, we know obviously the 1 seed Minot gets the big win, but Bismarck, a 5-1 win over Aberdeen, although that game, looking at the box score, was probably a little bit closer than the final score would imply.
Yeah, Borgalt scored twice, but yeah, the score was closer than it looked. There were 2 goals in the last 5 minutes. It was a 3-1 game for most of the game, but Bismarck able to pull away at the end and take that 1-0 series lead. Obviously, they're looking to protect home ice tonight, just like the Tauros are. And then transferring over to the Midwest Division, Anchorage gets the 4-0 win. Great goaltender performance out of Anchorage. And then Wisconsin gets the win over Janesville 4-2.
In comeback fashion, I believe.
Yep, that was a comeback. That was a couple interesting games over in the Midwest. Like we said, that Anchorage series, something to look at just in terms of the travel. Minnesota up there for potentially 3 games in a row, depending on how tonight goes. So that's definitely something to look at for sure.
Then down south, number 1 overall seed in the entire playoffs, Lone Star survives a scare against New Mexico. And Shreveport tops El Paso 4-2. So, again, another division where the 1 and 2 take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, and I look at the South very similar to how I look at the Central. I feel like Lone Star and Shreveport have kind of been on a collision course the entire season in a similar way that Minot and Bismarck have been. So we'll see if that holds true tonight. And then out east, 2 2-goal games. Higher seed wins them both. Maryland gets it done 5-3 over New Jersey, and Maine gets it done over Rochester. But 2 very different games. Maryland, New Jersey combined for 15 penalties. Rochester, Maine combined for just 4. So Maryland had to come back as well against the 5 seeds, a series that you would expect to be kind of lopsided. But if you look at the season series, Maryland and New Jersey actually tied the season series. So, definitely something to look at out there. That could be a series that could end up going 5, even though it's a 1 versus 5.
And that's one where the East has that play-in round because of the number of teams out there, where New Jersey had to play last weekend just to get into the Robertson Cup tournament. Whereas Maryland spent a weekend off. You wonder if that maybe came into play as well with New Jersey getting out to the early lead.
Yeah, and the old rest versus rust. When's the last time Maryland played all their starters? Who's to say? New Jersey's been fighting for their life for the last 2 weeks, so definitely something to look at out there for sure.
That'll bring us to our Noodles numbers. Decided not to update them to look at last night. I don't think last night tells you a true story of the matchup between these teams. So looking back at the regular season, still Tauros dominant in the head-to-head, 3.42 to 1.66 as far as goals a game head-to-head. The Tauros outshoot Austin, but only by a couple power plays. Again, we went over that, and that came up huge last night. In the penalty minutes, again, that tells the story of not just of the regular season matchup, but of last night's game in which the Bruins were heavily penalized. In fact, to the point that Will Diamond not eligible to play tonight.
Yeah, and you look at it last night, and you talked to Zwiecki in the second intermission, and it got kind of chippy there towards the end of the second period. Worried about heading into the third, what it was going to look like, but Zwiecki made it very clear that the Tauros were trying to stay out of that, just protect the lead, get out of there with the win. That was the main goal. Austin, 39 penalty minutes. To the Tauros, just 10. So that stay disciplined against this Austin team that tries to get under your skin. Tauros did a great job of that last night.
I'm going to do something not very Tauros-y here, but I'm going to compliment the officiating crew. I thought, when Will Diamond did what he did to earn himself a suspension, that's when the game was starting to get out of hand. The score was lopsided. Austin was starting to run around and hit guys. I thought the officials did a good job of reining things in and taking control and really preventing the Bruins from maybe taking some extra liberties. They sent the message right away. Look, if you're going to try and rough someone up because this game's a blowout, you're going to end up missing tomorrow night's game as well.
Yeah, and all I'll say on the refereeing, I completely agree with you, Ken. I thought they did a great job last night. They're going to have to be on it again tonight because the Bruins are going to come ready, and we've seen it time and time again on a Saturday night game against the Bruins. When they lose the Friday night, everything gets a little bit more physical. Checks get finished a little bit later. And so, they like to lean on the refs and make them try to take the game into their hands versus letting it play out on the ice. So we'll see how it plays out tonight.
That'll bring us to our Minotauros Booster Club player to watch. I'm going to kick it off with Captain Stacks. All-time leading scorer, 30 points against Austin in regular season games, and he had the shorthanded goal last night.
Yeah, and that was a great rebound on the backside from Stachowiak. I felt like he was everywhere last night. And like we were talking about yesterday, a guy that hasn't won a playoff series, been here for 4 years, that's been on his mind. That he's been thinking about that series last year against Austin where they got swept. So look for Stacks to have a huge game tonight. For me, I'm going our other captain, Weston Knox, had, like you mentioned earlier, nasty assists to Caden Casey off the spin move in the third period.
He danced
through
3 Bruins before he
a highlight reel goal to say the least. And, just a guy that is steady on the back end, great two-way guy. Can't say enough about both the captains, their leadership throughout the entirety of the season, and two guys that the Tauros are going to continue to lean on throughout the rest of the playoffs.
That'll bring us to our home key group keys to the game. I'll kick this off with stay focused. Last night, as I mentioned, it's still just one of the 9 wins the Tauros need to get to hoist the Robertson Cup at the end of the playoffs. So, yeah, it was a blowout. Yes, it was a dominating effort, but they've still got to do it 8 more times.
Yeah, and I would say last night was more of a statement than anything. Just letting everyone in the league know that, a couple losses down the stretch when guys were out, but this Tauros team is still the same Tauros team that set a plethora of records, including a record last night, 9 goals in a playoff game. That's never been done before by a Tauros team. So I'd say it was more of a statement than anything last night. But second key, skate. The Tauros speed has been a weapon against Austin all season. Against pretty much every team all season. They've been faster, and when they can get out and get in open space, that bodes well for this Tauros team. So definitely use that speed as a weapon again tonight and hopefully push this thing out to 2-0.
Yeah, Tauros had a ton of odd man rushes last night. They had Austin running around in their own zone. The Tauros pressure on the forecheck kept Austin pinned when they would get the puck in their defensive zone. So, yeah, use that speed as a weapon for sure. And then the last one, it's a repeat from last night, but this place was absolutely rocking last night. With a good crowd in attendance, 1,800. Home crowd, again, will be huge. Once the Tauros started scoring, it felt like the momentum, not just on the ice, but in the building, was unstoppable.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of having home ice, right? All roads lead north for any team in the Central, and, Austin's first up, but whoever wins that Bismarck-Aberdeen series, if the Tauros are able to get this done, they'll have to come up here just the same, and this is not a friendly place to play at any point in the regular season. You're talking about games in November, December, same type of vibe, but it felt a little extra last night. This town really wants to see a chance for the Central Division Championship, something they haven't seen since 2018. So, yeah, got to feed off that crowd. Early goals definitely help, but hopefully they can copy that same thing tonight.
That'll bring us to our Four Bears Casino and Lodge over-unders. You can play along with these in the Tauros Hockey mobile app. A chance to win a $250 stay-and-play package from our friends at Four Bears Casino. Start with Tauros defenseman goals. We talked about it yesterday. Coby Volk had 7 against these Bruins last year. Didn't get one last night. Ty James did, though, so a defenseman goal was on the board.
Yeah, I'm going over here, Ken. I think the defensemen were pushing up when needed last night. And, you talk about that speed, winning battles in the corner and kicking it out. There's space to work for sure, so I'm taking over for D-man goals tonight.
Second one, Tauros shot differential. Tauros outshot the Bruins by 20 last night. We set it at a little bit more realistic 5.5.
I'm going over here. I think it's going to be close, so I think it's going to tighten up for sure. Austin knows what's at stake. They know that if they can just win one hockey game tonight, they steal home ice back and go back to the Riverside where they can, end up maybe taking the series. So I think it's going to tighten up for sure. I think they're going to come out ready to play. A lot of their veterans were on that team last year, and so I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be right around that 5.5, but I am going to take the over just by a little bit.
And then this one for either team, just total empty net goals in the game. You think we'll see a close one, or will it be another blowout?
Right as I say that the game's going to tighten up, I still think that it's going to be at least a 2-goal win for the Tauros. So I'm going under on empty netters. So that's over D-man goals, over shot differential, under on empty netters. So knowing my track record, you should probably take the opposite of all 3 of those picks, but up to you guys.
That'll bring us to McDonald's Tauros Trivia, another game you can play in the Tauros Hockey mobile app. Who is the only Tauro to record 4 points in a game against the Austin Bruins? Was it Jack Murphy, Kyle Kukkonen, Blaine Warnert, or Jaden Martin?
I'm going to go with Kukkonen. I have no statistical data to back that up. I think he was a Bruin killer back in the day, and so I'm going with Kukkonen.
6th-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks, certainly not a bad guess. We'll find out if it's the right one, but that'll do it for the Farmers Union pregame show. It's time to drop the puck. We'll turn you over to Josh Carlock for tonight's introductions.